Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Just want to make sure we on the same page here and we ain't having no issues during editing. Are you on? Hello? Hello? Hey you guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel and welcome to this week's story time. I know I am looking crazy. We are doing another Get Ready With Me. I love doing these with you guys because I genuinely feel like I'm getting ready with y'all. I am looking especially dull and dead because that's how I've been feeling. I have been waking up every single morning, I should say, between 2 and 4:30. I'm going to show you guys how I go from looking like this to looking like an actual human being. Typically, when I'm doing my story times, I already at least have my eyebrows done because that's what takes me the longest. Y'all know the struggle. I'm like breaking out right here. What is this? I need to rejuvenate and like do something about this entire situation, okay? So I'm gonna be going in with my Teamy Detox Mask to fix this entire situation and get me looking alive again. This mask has 100% organic matcha green tea that actually helps pull out the toxins in your inflamed skin. It helps pull out the blackheads, which I suffer from a lot around my nose. Reduces acne, blemishes, all kinds of stuff. It also has antioxidants in it, which is amazing to fight the negative effects of free radicals and of course UV radiation. And I'm sure you guys already know or can probably guess the amazing benefits of using lemongrass, which is, you know, really great for brightening your skin and gets rid of this dullness, okay? So the lemongrass is gonna help me a lot with my tired mommy face. They also have a really super cute marble applicator to put your mask on. If you guys like what you see and the effect it gives my skin, definitely check out my description box for more information. And of course, your girl has a discount code for some monies off. You guys can find that down below as well for 30% off. If you will excuse me, I will be right back looking like a beautiful green monster, okay? I love doing this with my bestie. We be like doing masks together and just sitting there before I was pregnant, drinking wine and just talking. It's like the most amazing therapy in the world. And while we do this and be chilling in our masks, we're gonna go over our Glamazon shot of the day. All you have to do is send me your beautiful Glamazon shot, a cute little selfie of yourself, either to my Twitter or Instagram. I do toggle between the two. Make sure you use your hashtag Glamazon shot and of course tag your girl so I'm sure you're one of my home skillet biscuits. I just pick randomly on the day of filming to make it fair. Everybody say hello to today's Glamazon shot. This is our girl. You find her under Michelle. I'm guessing your name is Michelle or Mel or something like that. Find all of her information right here, but look how cute our girl is looking. I love that turban look. I think it is so cute, especially for the fall time. Yes, girl, you were killing and slaying the whole game. I love your whole outfit from top to bottom. Yes! Thank you so much, girl, for loving me and supporting me and sending me this beautiful glamour shot of yourself. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for taking the time out so that I could see your beautiful face and know that you one of my home skillet biscuits. You guys cannot even begin to imagine how much I appreciate all of your love and support. You guys know that I would not be here without you and I could not do this and be my crazy ass self without each and every one of you guys. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. How you know the mask is finished? You can barely move your face. So I'm gonna rinse this off, do my eyebrows real fast, and then we can get into the story time. Okay, are you ready? Get your wine, get your snacks, cause it's story time. So much better. I'm not dusty, crusty no more. Yes. Back into our regular scheduled programming. It's story time. I'm sure you guys are dying to hear about the story. I usually come up with my titles like after I film, but it is going to be something along the lines of like embarrassing my bully or something like that, because this was a moment in time that my mom really came through with somebody who absolutely humiliated me in front of so many people at my school. Before we jump in, I just wanted to let you guys know that I am going to be going for more of like a neutral eye, nothing but mattes. And to do that, I'm going to be using the Morphe 3503 palette. And again, everything else that I use will be down in the description box below. Okay, let's get into it. The story is going to be very different because it's going to be taking place actually when I was still living in Texas. For those of you guys that don't know, I am originally from Dallas. My mom has and always will be like a gypsy. She even says that about herself. And back then we moved a lot, so I used to live in multiple different places in Texas, but Texas is my home state. I was not in any way, shape, or form an extrovert as a child. I was very much to myself. I read a lot. I was a nerd. I loved school. I loved reading, and I had what I now know to be social anxiety. And a lot of it stemmed from the fact that I did have a speech impediment as a child, and it was really bad. I would avoid people altogether. Wanted to be left alone because I got made fun of for a lot of different reasons. I probably had maybe like 2 or 3 friends, and they were my friends because like we would be in like the spelling bee and stuff together. I'm not even kidding. You know, I was living my life, you know, being a librarian, being the teacher's pet all the time. So with that being said, you know, I obviously was not a part of the popular crowd, and there was a group of girls that were really, really popular. I remember their names because when they walked in the room, you knew that they were there. 2 or 3 of them, but I only distinctly remember 2 of them. One of them was named Jasmine, but she went by Jazzy. Other one was named Sabrina, and they were like the bestest of friends. Like they had other friends in their like little clique, but those 2 were like inseparable, right? They were really popular, they were really loud, and for lack of better words, they were really fast, okay? They always had like boyfriends. They were always like the ones to be making out all up in the hallways. They were my complete and utter opposite. Now, of course, in a friendship like that, you always have like the leader and then the one who's like pretty much the follower. Now, the leader was Jazzy. I would avoid them completely because I didn't have anything in common with them, and I just knew that I wasn't gonna fit in with them. I honestly just wanted to stay off of their radar. So anytime I saw them like out and about in the neighborhood, I completely avoided them. So at the beginning of the year, you know, I was doing my own thing. I had already volunteered some of my time to be a librarian. 2 or 3 months into the school year, something changed. I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden there was a little boy. His name was, what was his name? Diamond? I think it really was Diamond, like legit. So his name was Diamond, and he was such a cutie, and he was one of those boys that like all the girls liked, and he like had that little swag, you know, for being his age. I would of course be the ones to restock the books, and then I would also be the one to like, you know, do the scanning and check the books out for the kids, right? One day came around, and you know, I'm doing my thing, and I'm basically, you know, doing my shift in the library, you know, minding my own business. Diamond walks in, and he's got like a hall pass, and he's coming into the library to obviously get a book. The librarian, like the teacher, she would leave me up there all the time by myself. She knew that I was like super reliable. So if she needed to go and like pick up some lunch, or if she needed to go like talk to another teacher, if she needed to like run down to the office real fast, she would leave me in the library by myself because she knew that I could handle everything and that I knew what I was doing. I remember her being there when Diamond walked in. Within like a few minutes, she was leaving, and I don't remember where she was going, whether it was the bathroom or something, but she was leaving the library. She leaves, and at this point, it's just me and Diamond in the library, okay? You know, like any other little girl, I definitely had a crush on him too because he was the school cutie or whatever, but I knew that no way in the whole entire world that I would ever have like a chance with him, right? Kind of like looks over at me, and I'm like, haha, you know, like just being all nerdy and just like my regular awkward ass self. He starts walking, you know, through the aisles and looking at the books, right? You know how people would like put their books back into the slot when they're like turning them in? I would empty that bin, you know, put them back, scan them back into the system, and then put them on this little cart, and then take that cart and, you know, go restock the shelves. So I took this opportunity to go out into the aisles and start restocking, and he comes and stands right next to me. And like, I don't want to say anything because again, like I cannot express to you guys how unbelievably embarrassed I was to speak to people because of my speech impediment. And I've talked about this before. It was an issue with my S's. So I couldn't say my S's correctly. They were like, they came off slurred. I was not about to say anything to this boy first. Like, I was not gonna talk to him unless I absolutely had to, because like, how embarrassing, right? And he asks me a question, and I honestly can't tell you what exactly he asked me. I think it may have been like, you know, he was looking for a certain book or like where a certain section was. I just remember feeling myself get so red, and I have such a bad habit of doing that even now. I don't know how to control my blushing. So when I start blushing and kind of like stumbling over myself, I just remember him giving me this huge smile. And when he smiled at me, y'all, I was dead. I was deceased. Like, oh my God. Like, I was just like, I had never, ever had like a boy's attention like that, to where like, you know, the smile, okay? Like the Like, you know, the smile, okay? Like, he was giving me that smile. I did not know how to act. Like, your girl was not handling this well. And I go back up to the front desk, and I'm just like trying to keep myself busy because I didn't want to just sit there and just like be staring at him, you know, like, are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? And I knew that he was going to have to come to me to check out his books. So like, I was about to have another interaction with him, right? So my heart's beating so fast. I keep my head down. I had a really, really hard time with like eye contact back then. He will not take his eyes off of me. Like, it is the most awkward situation ever. Finally, he asked me my name, and I was like, guys, me and Diamond had so many classes together. To be real, we had like basically our whole damn schedule was the same. You know, so I start stuttering and I'm like, oh, you know, I was like, my name's Nikki. And he was like, that's right, that's right, that's right. You know, when boys like try to act like they remember, but you already know that they didn't remember. And so he's like, oh yeah, that's right. You know, it was on the tip of my tongue. Like, I almost had that or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever. You're in my gym class, right? And I was like, mm-hmm. And your science class and our English class and our home ec class. Basically, in a nutshell, you guys, this little boy was like finally figuring out exactly who I was, and we're basically in the middle of the school year at this point. Oh, you're the librarian? And I'm like, yeah, you know. So, you know, he starts picking on me about that, and he was like, you for real like want to do this? Like, this is fun to you? And I was like, hell yeah, this is fun to me. Like, this is my favorite thing ever. If there was anything that I could talk about for like ever, it was books, okay? Like, if you wanted me to open up, talk to me about some books. It was like going on and on about like my favorite series at the time and like which book I was on. And you guys, the whole time he's just sitting there looking at me like, okay, go off. Like, I remember that we did not have, you know, like one of those stamps that like has the date on it for like your due date. We would have to write it in with a pen on the front of we had like little index cards, like a little pocket. Y'all know which one I'm talking about, okay? And we would hand write the due date of the books on that index card. So, you know, I go on my whole nerdy spiel and I'm like writing his due date in the front of one of his books. All of a sudden, this boy was like, hey, while you're at it, why don't you give me your number? I was straight up. I was like, boy, you barking up the wrong tree here, okay? First of all, I cannot just be giving you my number, okay? I'm not allowed to talk to boys, and like my mom would never let me, you know, talk to you on the phone. He was like, oh, all right, like I get that. He said something along the lines of like, you're like the coolest librarian I've ever met. Like, I'll remember you. I hung on to every single word this little boy said. In a nutshell, he just made me feel like special in the way that I never had before. Things completely changed. I was going to class, the same classes that I've had all year. Diamond and I have quite a few of them together. Every class I walked in, he was saying hi to me, like in front of everybody. Everyone that he was sitting with, everyone that was like his friend, was like looking over at me and like, I didn't even know that you existed. Like, they just had that look on their face like, oh, that's new, you know? Well, that's when the issues started, okay? Him doing that, you guys, opened up a whole set of issues for me that lasted for months and months and months. All of a sudden, I started feeling tension from Jazzy and Sabrina, the girls that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. I always avoided their asses, okay? Because they were like the epitome of mean girls. Like, they were not nice. I think it was like in my science class or something, Diamond did that, and I had walked in with one of my friends, and as soon as I walked in, he looked over at me and he was like, hey Nikki, what's up? And I was like, oh hey. You know, so I started kind of getting into the habit of saying hi back. Like, he's saying hi to me, I'm gonna say hi back, you know? I started noticing that I was getting like dirty looks from both Sabrina and Jazzy, and they like, you guys, they look pissed, audibly being like, who is she again? Like, why is he saying hi to her? And I was like, oh shit. Like, this was one of the first times I was having drama with other girls because of a boy. So that's where the problems began. And before I knew it, every class that I had with all of them, Jazzy especially, was like saying some slick shit. Fast forward some time, right? And I had gym class with not only Diamond, but I also had gym class with Sabrina and Jazzy. Like, we were all basically on the same schedule. Like any other gym class, you have to change out, you know, before class starts. I had one friend, and, you know, she and I would kind of like stick together the whole time. But on this day, she wasn't there. I don't even remember where she was, but she wasn't there. So it was just me. I was at my locker and I was like, you know, changing my clothes real fast. Out of nowhere, I hear Sabrina and Jazzy like talking. And they're doing that thing where they're talking loud enough to where they obviously want me to hear them, but they're not talking to me. But then I started noticing that they were basically mocking my speech impediment. Like they were saying their S's the way that I had a problem saying my S's because they were making fun of me. So many girls in the locker room started laughing and immediately looked at me because they had all heard me speak before. So because I was so shy and so much of an introvert, like you guys, I just took it. They were far from the first people to make fun of me about it, but like I just found it easier for me to like try to ignore it or not say anything and just kind of take it because I didn't really know how to stand up for myself back then. And Sabrina was like doing it way more than Jazzy. And she was like, watch out, like don't spit on me or whatever because of like my S's. You guys, they were being fucking brutal little bitches. At this time, you know, my fight or flight, it was mostly flight. Like I would just leave and run away if I could. So I leave the locker room and I go out into the main gym and I'm like, so unbelievably embarrassed. There was no indicator that anything was ever going on between the two, but I remember on this day that all of a sudden Jazzy, like the leader, she was like really close to Diamond and like sitting next to him and basically spent the entire period just like being around Diamond. So every time like I looked over there, you know, to sneak a peek at my crush, she was right there and like she was like looking at me all the time, like don't even look over here type of shit, right? Well, what had happened was I was like, you know, changing real fast, and in order to do that I had to take off my shoes, you know, to put on my regular clothes. So I took off my shoes real quick. All of a sudden Sabrina walked by the bench that I was sitting on and she bent down really fast and she grabbed one of my shoes and she like grabbed it by the laces and she's like dangling it, right? She's like, Jazzy, look at this shit right here. Look at this. Oh my God. She's like holding my shoe and everyone like looks over and they're like, what? And she was like, look at this shit. This girl for real has some Walmart shoes. Like she is so busted. And like, I did have Walmart shoes. Okay. I really did because you know, my mom was obviously a single mom, but it's not that we didn't have money. It was, my mom was like one of those, she was like one of those parents where like she got my brother a lot of name brand stuff at that time because he was already in high school. And so we basically had an agreement and she was like, Mija, right now is your brother's moment. And when you get older, you're gonna have name brand stuff too. I just can't do that for both of y'all. Like she was really, really honest with me about, you know, our circumstances, and I honestly didn't mind. Didn't care about my appearance that much back then. I was, you know, my whole life was books. I didn't care. So my favorite place to go was Walmart with my grandma. Like we would hit up Hypermark. That's what my grandma would call it, Hypermark. And I would have the time of my life and my grandma would buy me anything from Walmart. And so a lot of my clothes and a lot of my shoes came from Walmart because my mom was like, you know, you're younger, like, you know, you're gonna get them dirty, you're always outside, so like, you know, just get you some Walmart shoes. Not only does she sound crazy and she can't say her S's, but she's broke and like she ain't got no money and like look at her shoes type of shit. You guys, I wanted to absolutely just like melt into the walls and just like disappear. I would say probably like half of the girls in there were laughing and half of them were just kind of like, that's kind of fucked up, you know? And again, you guys, I don't know what was wrong with me back then. I just let it happen. And I'm sitting there just like watching her dangle my shoes and she's just sitting there and she's like, you ain't got no other shoes besides this? Like, this is all you got? And then it comes out like while she's like making fun of me, she like looks over at Jazzy. It's like, you don't have nothing to worry about when it comes to her and Diamond because Diamond would never like broke trash like this. Then it all started making sense and I was like, oh, this is not even like really about me. This is about Diamond. He had been saying hi to me recently and it pissed off Jazzy. And then she like sicked her little minion, Sabrina, on me. You and your janky ass shoes, stay away from Diamond. That's Jazzy's man. And she like threw the shoe and it hit me in the chest. I didn't say anything. I grabbed my shoes and I literally ran out of the locker room with no shoes on. And I ran to my next class, and I was there before everybody to like put my shoes on and like gather myself, because I just was so unbelievably humiliated. Unfortunately, Sabrina and Jasmine were not done with me. If like the teacher called on me, they would start like snickering and laughing and like, oh, you know, this bitch or whatever. Fast forward a few days, and lunchtime came around, and I was sitting with a few of my friends, and you know, there were only 2 tables that were for our grade specifically, but there was, you know, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders all in the lunchroom all at once. And so I'm sitting there with my friends and, you know, minding my own business. And at this point, it had kind of died down a little bit, like with Jazzy and Sabrina. I completely avoided them. I completely avoided Diamond. Like, I wanted nothing to do with it. I just wanted to be left alone. I'd just gotten in there and we had just sat down. People were still coming out of like getting their food and coming to sit down. I'm like talking to my friends, and all of a sudden I see one of my girlfriends. She's like sitting across from me, and I see her like look up and pass me, and she's like, Nikki, oh my God, Nikki, oh my God. And I was like, what? And behind you. So I like look behind me, and here comes Diamond, and he's heading straight for me. And I was not happy about it at all. I was like looking at him like, please don't come over here. And so I like look at him, and immediately my heart drops, and I like start scanning the room for Jazzy and Sabrina, because all of my problems were because of this boy. My eyes meet Jazzy's, and she's watching the whole thing. And so she's sitting there looking at me, and she like sees Diamond, and Diamond's looking at me, and I had looked at him, and he started smiling at me, and he's like a few feet away from me at this point with his tray. Sure enough, he walks up, and it's him and like 2 of his friends. And he walks up with his tray, and he's like, hey Nikki, what's up? It's like, can me and my friends sit right here? Immediately, like my eyes are going from him to her, to him to her, and I'm like, and my friend that was sitting across from me, she was like, yeah, you know, you guys come sit down. And so she like, you know, saves it. And she was like, yeah. So she starts scooting over. And so some of his friends go around the table and go sit next to her. And I'm just like sitting there, and he's looking at me like, you know, can you scoot over so I can sit next to you? And I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Like, I am so scared right now. And Jazzy's looking at me like, bitch, do it and see what happens. And I was like, oh my God. But here's Diamond, and he's like, can you like scoot over? And I'm like, okay. He sits down next to me, he sets down his tray, and again I look over, and Jazzy is like looking at me like, I know you did not just do that. Like you just made the biggest mistake of your life. Like, he's trying to like have a conversation with me, and he's like, I don't even remember what he was saying. I couldn't even like process what he was saying or even care, because I was so scared like what the repercussions were going to be for me allowing him to sit next to me. Stop looking over at Jazzy and Sabrina because I didn't want to like feel intimidated. I was scared. I was nervous. So like I was like avoiding that part of the table altogether, right? All of a sudden I see out of my periph both Jazzy and Sabrina get up from the table, and they both have their trays in their hand. And like where the trash cans were located, they were gonna have to walk directly like past us to get over there. So like I see them get up, and my heart immediately sinks, and I get so nervous. And Sabrina especially, like I don't know what her deal was. Like this wasn't even her shit, you know, like she wasn't even the one like crushing on Diamond or anything. That was Jazzy. But Sabrina had like this weird crazy resentment towards me. Like she really had it out for me. Throw their stuff away, and then they turn around, and I can see them like talking amongst each other. Sabrina was saying something, and you know, her hands are going everywhere, and she's like doing the most, and I can feel it. Something bad is about to happen. All of a sudden she stops in front of me and Diamond at the table, and she's like passing by, and she just stops, and she looks at him, and she looks at me, and she looks right back at him, and she was like, really, Diamond? Really? This is how you're gonna do my girl? He was like, what, Sabrina? What do you want? She was like, I want you to tell me why you're over here dissing my girl. You guys have only been broken up for a few days, and you're gonna be sitting up here sitting next to that? Just seems so confused. And he was like, it's really not that big of a deal. Like, me and Nikki are just friends. I'm sorry. She was like, it has a name. Can't even look at her. I am just so unbelievably humiliated, and like she's being so loud, and when I tell you everyone in the cafeteria, like everyone was like having their own conversation, but like slowly but surely everyone was getting quiet, like being really loud. Guys, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. I just got silent and I literally just kept looking at my tray. Instead, Diamond, he starts like defending me, and he was like, why you gotta do that? He was like, we're just friends. Like, you don't have to be like that towards her. Not being a bitch. And he was like, you know, calling her out her name. He's like, there's literally something wrong with her. You do know that, right? And again, like, you guys, I would not look up from my tray. And he was like, no, there's not. Leave her alone, Sabrina. Just like go, just like leave her alone. She looked at him and she was like, I don't have to listen to you. She was like, if she wants me to leave her alone, she can tell me to leave her alone. And she looked at me and she goes, Nikki, she was like, all you have to do is say, Sabrina, leave me alone. She was like, go ahead, say it. And she wanted me to say, Sabrina, leave me alone, because I had an issue with my S's. And she was like, go ahead, say my name. Say, Sabrina, leave me alone, and I'll walk away right now. Say it. Go ahead. Say it. So everyone can hear how retarded you sound. There's something wrong with you and that you're fucking stupid. And she was like, and if you haven't noticed, she's broke as shit too. Like, she's broke and she's poor. Look at how she's dressed. Look at her shoes. And you're going to sit up here and like be dissing my friends for that? Are you serious? Go ahead, Nikki. She was like, go ahead, tell me. You guys, at this point, the whole cafeteria was quiet. There was no way in hell, in fiery blazes of hell, that I was going to say that in front of everybody. There was absolutely no way. I did my, if I don't make any sudden moves, I'll disappear kind of thing. And I legitimately just sat there. Nowhere, one of the staff, I don't even know who this lady was, came up and grabbed Sabrina and Jazzy, and she was like, you guys are causing a disturbance. Y'all need to go. Like, leave her alone. Go, go, go. Because, you know, the whole cafeteria had stopped. Sabrina looked and she was like, I told you to stay the hell away from him. Looked at Diamond. She was like, I just wanted to let you know that she's not normal, okay? Not only is she stupid, she's poor. So they dragged her and Jazzy out of the cafeteria, and you guys, I'm just sitting there and everybody is quiet. And I'm just like, oh my God, I just want to disappear. I just keep staring at my tray, and all of a sudden I feel tears, and a lot of them just rolling down my cheeks. Like, I wasn't like, you know how when you cry, like you kind of like push? Like, I wasn't even pushing. They were just coming out of my eyes. And before I knew it, my whole face was wet. I was just bawling. My friend that was sitting across from me, like, she saw my face and she was like, Nikki, let's go. Like, let's just go. And usually the rule was that you couldn't leave the cafeteria before the end of lunch. But my friend, like, she stood up and she was like, come on, Nikki, we're leaving. The teachers was like, are you okay? Like, you know, do you need to go to the counselor's office or anything? And I would not say anything to anybody. Like, I was just mute. To the bathroom, and like we're in complete silence. I was not myself, and I just wanted the day to hurry up and be over. And Jazzy and Sabrina were not in my classes. Like, they were not in class. I don't know if they got in trouble for doing what they did or like yelling at me. I don't know, but they were not in class. We get off on our bus stop and she's like, hey, are you okay? Like, do you want me to walk you home? And I just looked at her and shook my head, and she was like, okay, like, I'll see you tomorrow. Like, don't worry about it. It's gonna pass. Started walking home. By the time I got home, my brother was home. I walked into the house and my brother was on the couch watching TV. And like, legitimately, the minute that I looked over at him, I just cried. I was just like devastated. You know, my brother never babied me, but I just remember this day, he was like, he could tell that something was wrong. And he hugged me, and I just like broke down. I just broke all the way down. Like, I was like literally slumped in his arms, like just crying and crying and crying and crying. And he was like, Mama, what's wrong? He was like, what's the matter? And it got to the point where like he like pulled me off of him and like looked me in the face and was like, what is wrong? Like, you're scaring me. What's the matter? Like, who do I need to fuck up? Like, what happened? Start like babbling, you know, like when you're crying and you're so upset and you're like, like, that's how I was. After like 15 minutes of me just like bawling my eyes out, finally I like calmed down enough to tell him exactly what happened. And my brother, he was like an advocate for me learning how to stand up for myself. Like, if somebody did that in front of him, of course he would be the first person to like stand up for me and like beat whoever's ass. But when it came to like girls, he knew that he couldn't fight girls for me, you know what I'm saying? So he felt like he was always telling me, you have to man up. Like you have to buck up. You have to stop being a victim. You have to stop allowing yourself to be bullied. It's like, you cannot just be letting these stupid little girls embarrass you like that. And this is going to continue to happen if you don't start standing up for yourself. And the minute that you teach them that they can do that to you, like, they're going to always do that to you. And there's nothing that I can do to save you. He was like, this is why I've always been so hard on you. This is why I would make fun of you, because you needed to like develop tougher skin, Nikki. If you can handle what I dish out to you, you can definitely handle these little girls. He was basically like, I can't always be around. Mom can't always be around. Like, there's not going to always be somebody to save you. This was one of the very rare moments that my brother was sensitive with me, and he sat down on the couch and he had a talk with me that he had never had with me before. And he told me, you're smart and you're really pretty. And yes, there are things that people are going to make fun of you about, but that's why I have trained you all this time to have tougher skin, to fight back with me. Like, he would push me to the point where like I would lose my shit and like we would start wrestling and fighting. He was like, you think I like being mean to you because I hate you? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, I don't hate you. He was like, I do that because I love you, because I know that these little girls are gonna have an issue with you because you're really smart, mama, and you're pretty. They're gonna start seeing that. And the older that you get, the more of a threat they're gonna see you as. If anybody can teach you how to hold your own, it's me. Like, he was like, you fight me all the time. Like, if you can take me on and baby Chris was my cousin. He was like, and all of us boys, like, you guys, I was fighting all the time. Like, when it came to them, I wasn't like a little punk. Like, I was constantly fighting with the boys. And he was like, if you could take us, you could definitely take these little girls. Like, don't be scared, blah, blah, blah. And like, you know, he gave me this pep talk, right? Finally understood why my brother was so hard on me and why he was like so mean to me. And, you know, everything that he did was for a reason. You know, I still wasn't okay with like standing up for myself. Like, it was going to be a while until I became okay and confident enough to stand up for myself and stick up for myself in the event that somebody came at me sideways. That's not the end of the story, okay? Fate definitely made this next part happen, because the likelihood of this happening was like slim to none, and it happened. At this point, my mom was trying to find us a house that was really close in proximity to my grandma's house. And because, you know, I was going to that school and she wanted to find somewhere. I loved being at my grandma's, so did my brother. I was trying to find a place in that neighborhood, right? She picked me up from school and I didn't have to ride the bus that day. And she was like, hey, we're gonna go look at a few houses because I'm looking for another place to rent in the neighborhood. And I was so excited and so happy. Like, more than anything, I just wanted to live as close to my grandma as possible, right? There's this house for rent. It's like literally like 5 minutes away from grandma's house. And, you know, it's within, you know, your school boundaries or whatever. We take off and, you know, we start driving and we pull up to this house. And it's a pretty small house, you know, kind of like my grandma's house. Like, it wasn't anything extravagant. It was just like a little, you know, casita. It was just like a little cute house. So we're sitting in front of that house and my mom's like, you know, putting on her lipstick or whatever. And I looked over at the front door and there was like a red piece of paper on the door. And I was like, Mom, are you sure this is the house? And she was like, yeah. And she looked over at the door and she was like, yeah, this is the house. Like, this is the address. And I was like, okay. As we're getting closer to the front door, I start reading what's on that paper. And it's a big red piece of paper, bold letters. It says eviction notice. I was like, whoop. And like, I looked over at my mom and my mom was like, well, I guess that's why this house is available for rent, because whoever's here like is getting evicted. And I was like, oh, well, damn, like, that sucks. Mom rings the doorbell and we're waiting and waiting and we wait for a good minute. And you guys know Mama Glamour. If you guys haven't been with me for a minute, patience is not my mom's strong suit. So, you know, after like a minute or two, she starts ringing the doorbell again and she's like, excuse me, like, I'm here to see the house, you know, it says it's for rent, whatever. Finally, we hear somebody coming towards the door. The door opens. Fucking Sabrina. Y'all, she opened that door and she looked like she had just rolled out of bed, and she was at school that day, so I don't know why she looked like that, but she wasn't wearing the same clothes that she had been wearing to school. We're just like sitting there looking at each other, and I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And my mom is just like, are you gonna let me in? Like, I'm here to see the house. Like, is this the house that's for rent? Sabrina would not stop looking at me, and my mom was like, hello, like, young lady, I'm talking to you. Is this the house that's for rent? Finally, Sabrina like snapped out of it, and she was like, yes, ma'am. She was like, yes, it is. My mom's on her way home right now, but she told me that you were coming. And my mom was like, okay, well, like, I don't have time. She was like, unfortunately, I don't have any time. Like, my mom was very much about her business. She was like, so am I supposed to like wait here for your mom? Cause like we had an agreement that this was the time that I was gonna come see the house. And so like my mom's getting frustrated, and she's like, come on, girl, like what we doing, you know? And Sabrina was like, no. And she was like, my mom said that, you know, I could just let you in and she'll be here in like 2 minutes. My mom's like, okay. And so she's like waiting for Sabrina to like open the door. She was really hesitant to let us into that door. Immediately she was like, sorry for the mess. And so she opened the door, and then she like takes off, and she just like leaves us to walk around the house on her own, and she like beelines it, right? Mom is like super confused, and she's like, that's weird. Like, you know, what a weird little girl, whatever. Let's just like look around real fast. If we like it, we like it. If we don't, we don't. This house was an absolute pigsty. There was legitimately a clothing line, okay? Like, you know, a clothesline that's outside where you hang your clothes, you know, to dry. It was one of those, and it was in the living room, and there was just like a bunch of bras and panties and like clothes just like hanging on there, like, in the living room, okay? So my mom is very vocal. So my mom's like, you know, looking around, and she was like, oh, hell no. Like, what the hell is going on up in here? Keep walking through. It's like the living room, and then you walk through, and then the kitchen's in the back. So we go through there. You guys, there are dishes that are piled up like in the sink. And my mom was like, oh, ew. And like, you know, she was like, what the hell is this? Like, they didn't even prepare for, like, I told this lady that I was gonna come and see the house. There's just like mess everywhere, you guys. Laundry, dirty laundry. It like smelled all kinds of terrible. And I'm just like sitting there like, oh my God. This definitely was not the first time that I had seen houses with my mom. I used to love doing that, like just like going to see new places. And usually I'd be like, Mom, look at this and look at this and look at this. This house, I was not, because it was Sabrina's house. And so I'm like staying back, and I'm just kind of like looking around, and I'm like really freaked out. And my mom looked at me, and she was like, hey, what's going on? She was like, what's the matter? And like, we're in the kitchen, and she like kind of cornered me, and she was like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, nothing. And she was like, don't lie to me. She was like, what's the matter? She was like, why are you acting all weird? My mom knew what happened at my school. Like my brother talked to her and was like, you know, Nikki got picked on or whatever. So I just kind of like looked at my mom, and I was like, you know that girl that answered the door? And she was like, yeah, that's the one that made fun of me at school. She's the one that was like calling me poor. And like, she embarrassed me in front of the whole cafeteria. And like, I just avoid her all the time, Mom, and I really don't want to be here. It was like, oh, that's the little heifer? That's the one that made you cry? I was like, yes, ma'am. And she was like, oh, okay. Okay, now I get it. Do not get all embarrassed in front of her. And so my mom started like raising her voice, and she was like, because if anybody needs to be embarrassed about all this mess and their dirty calzones and everything, it's her. My mom starts like yelling, and she's like, because this is nasty. All of this mess, and like, look at how she lives. It's her. She should be embarrassed. She's talking, she's walking, and she's like going through the hallways. And we passed by the bathroom, and still my mom is going off, and she's like, look at how they have their bathroom. Look, all moldy. No, I can't even believe they got some nerve trying to show this house. And she keeps walking through the hallway, and we start passing the bedrooms. And I'm like behind my mom, and I'm like, Mom, no. Like, it's not a big deal. And she was like, no, it is a big deal, because this little girl has the nerve to be making fun of my daughter. But all I see right here is ratchetness and like look at her house. We start passing the bedrooms and my mom's like opening each door to like look at the rooms, and she opens one of them and it's just like a bed and a nightstand and it's like all messy. My mom's just steady talking stuff, right? And I'm just like behind her like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. She goes to the next room and she pushes the door open, and there's Sabrina sitting on her bed, and she's like on her phone, and she had like a landline in her room, and she's on her phone, and my mom goes in there and she's like looking around, and I'm like behind her. And my mom, like, you know, she goes in there and she was like, oh, and she just kept doing that. Oh, hell no. It smells so bad in here. There's no way that we're going to be able to get the smell out of here. Oh, this house is so nasty. Like, she has some nerve. She was like, look at how she keeps her things. And she's like talking about Sabrina as though she's not even there. All of a sudden we hear the front door open, and it's Sabrina's mom. And if you think that my mom cared whether or not this little girl's mom was there, she did not. She kept going. She goes back out into the hallway and she's like, this is so ridiculous. Like, what? I don't even know what to say right now, because like this is so nasty. Sabrina's mom comes into the hallway and she's like, hi, you know, I'm so and so. And my mom was like, hi. She was like, I'm sorry. I think that there was a big misunderstanding, because I was here to see the house that's for rent. No, this is the house that's for rent. Like, we're moving. And my mom was like, oh, and like we're in the hallway. We're like in front of Sabrina's doorway. So she's like sitting on her bed and she can see us. Okay, mom went around her, went to the front door, took the notice off of the front door, came back into the hallway and said, you guys are getting evicted. There's a big difference. You can take me off of the list of people that are interested in this home, because we definitely cannot be living in these conditions, and like there's no way that I can save this home. So she grabbed me, she goes, come on, mija, we have way nicer houses to see, because this is ridiculous and nasty. Let's go. Mom showed up and showed out. Okay, like mom really wasn't like that upset. She understands that people live their life the way that they want to live them, but she wanted to give Sabrina a taste of her own medicine. And my mom felt like she got that behavior from somewhere, and it must have been her mama. Like, that's why, mija, you don't need to be listening to these little girls whenever they make fun of you, because you know what? Now look, now she's all embarrassed. Now you know that she's getting evicted. She was like, so if somebody has a question about it at school, tell them. She's getting evicted. She's all poor. We denied the house that she was living in. It was that nasty. You tell everybody, mija. Since she don't have no problem embarrassing you, you don't need to be having no problem embarrassing her. Because like, I was seriously like, mommy, please stop. And she was like, mija, why do you want me to be nice about this? Was she nice to you? And I was like, no, ma'am. And she was like, okay, then. This is why what other people say about you doesn't matter. More oftentimes than not, they're fronting. And whatever it is that they're making fun of you about is because they're lacking the same thing in their life. She was like, and all of this bullshit, she ever has anything to say to you, you be real quick to remind her where she came from. And this mess and nastiness is exactly what she came from. And that is why she is the way that she is. Sabrina never even looked my way ever again. The rest of the school year, she avoided me like the plague. I finally had the freedom to breathe in my own school. I finally felt like I could just go to class and not have to worry about being picked on or made fun of. I literally did not hear not a word from Sabrina ever again. Ever. It really was the perfect example of karma, because out of all the houses in all the world for us to be looking at to rent, and then we walk up and there's an eviction notice and the person behind that door is Sabrina, of all people, girl, if that ain't karma, I don't know what is. And that's why you shouldn't be a mean person. Never make fun of people for shit that they can't control and circumstances that they cannot control, because you never know when you're going to be on the receiving end of that and you're going to be the person being made fun of, because you would want somebody to understand your circumstances. And had it not been for the way that she treated me, my mom would have never come at her like that and never, you know, talked about her situation like that. You know, we would have had a lot of empathy because, you know, we understood what it was like to have money problems, obviously. The classic case of treat people how you want to be treated. Understand people how you would want to be understood. Don't ever think that you're above anybody else, because that same person could come right back around and see you at your lowest and you would want them to have empathy for you. She was embarrassed. She never said shit to me again. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this story time and, you know, learned a little something from it. If you did, please don't forget to give me a huge thumbs up to let me know. If you're not subscribed to my channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Double check even if you think you are. Hit that notification bell so you're not missing out on any new videos, because I do have some really fun ones coming up. Also, if you have a second, head over to our family channel because we do have some really exciting videos, including our nursery reveal, our daughter's name reveal, and of course our labor and delivery story coming up. Here are my socials one more again in case you didn't get them before, to give your girl a follow. But I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys very soon in my next video. Peace out.